Good morning, guys. It's Tuesday morning, and I'm here in Joshua, and I'm just going to read a couple of verses as I explain what I want to talk about today. Now, we're in chapter 4, and we come down to verse 14, and it says, "That day the Lord made Joshua a great leader in the eyes of all Israel. All the Israelites, for the rest of his life, they revered him as much as they had revered Moses. And the Lord then gave to Joshua some instructions to the priests, and he said, those who are carrying the ark, let them remain in the middle. And then he also had one man from each tribe pick up a stone, and they took that stone out from in the middle of the river, and they took it outside, and they made an altar, like a monument, so that years and years to come, when the children and the grandchildren ask, they'll be able to retell the story. And it says here that as soon as the priests carrying the ark of the Lord's covenant came out of the riverbed, and their feet were on high ground, the water of the Jordan returned and overflowed its banks as before. And then I want to just touch on a little further on when he said that all the nations of the earth might know that the Lord's hand is powerful, and that you might fear the Lord your God forever. And when the Amorite kings west of Jordan and all the Canaanite kings who lived along the Mediterranean coast heard how the Lord had dried up Jordan River so the people of Israel could cross, they lost heart and were paralyzed with fear because of them. Here, I want to stress on just about two things. One, Joshua followed God's instructions the same way he had seen Moses hear from God and follow. It's the same thing he did. Throughout the entire process, he was listening to God's instruction, and as God commanded him, that's what he did. Throughout your entire process, throughout our entire lives, we are supposed to be listening to God and following what he commands us. Mind you, as I said, this was not the time to cross the Jordan River, but they ignored the negative signs and followed what God said, and they saw an amazing miracle. It dried up, and when they were finished, so there was just an opening created just for them. God is going to create that opening that is just for you. He's going to create that opening that is just for me. As you realize, as soon as they left and they came up on high ground, everything just went back to normal, and the Jordan overflowed its banks again. It's not like if, it just barely come back to a trickle and people could say, oh, it was the time for it to dry up, or whatever. No, it went right back to being overflown, and nobody could pass, difficult for anybody else to pass. In other words, because of that, people were able to realize that this was something that God did. When God makes that opening for you and allow you to pass through to the other side of your destiny, you will realize, and people will realize, this had to have been God. Because when the circumstances go back, and other people couldn't just come and say, oh, we going through too and whatever. This is something that God did especially for the children of Israel. And this is something that God is about to do especially for you, especially for me. He's about to make a way that may seem impossible to everyone else, but if you continue following his instructions. And then he also, if you want to say, big them up in the eyes of the people, so the people were able to understand that just as God was with Moses, it's the same way he was with Joshua, commanding him, and they saw the same thing happen, because this was another generation. Many of the older ones had died out, but this younger generation was able to see God leading Joshua and Joshua leading them, and they said they revered him the same way. And also, even the people around were able to recognize that God's hand was on him and guiding him the same way. They say when they heard what had happened, many of them cowered in fear, because they realized his God was fighting for him. People will realize your God is fighting for you, okay? That's my word of encouragement to you today. As we go through today, have a terrific Tuesday. Remember, God loves you, and I do too. Be blessed.